Good evening and welcome to yet another episode of Beating COVID-19 African Style. And today we're going to talk about the pandemic predictions for Africa. Many methodologies have been used and systems have been drawn up to predict the infection, death rate, and other things that were supposed to happen in Africa. And it's sort of not panning out. Remember, this week we're talking about beating COVID-19 African style, using we have to do it our way. I have the notes as well, so I'll keep it quick this time. And so first and foremost, we're talking about a report sent on the 7th of May from WHO, which expected that would have estimated death rate of between 83,000 to 190,000 within the first year, or the first year of within year one of COVID-19. And they followed that report over with another one that said a quarter of a billion people, that's 250 million people in Africa, would catch COVID-19 in the next year. Another prediction, and the models were two that were used to predict the African epidemic. One was called the maximum Hastings parameter, which is the MHT something, and the modified susceptible exposed infection recovered SEIR models. And Kenya in that listing was rated to have flattened the curve by April or something like that. They would have contained it. A very nice statistical analysis was done by Mr. Gishuhi A. Waitito on the elephant. And he actually talked, this was written in April 24th this year. And it wrote a lot about the epidemiology behind the infection rates in Kenya and so on. He wrote a piece on Africa as well, but I will attach the Kenyan one. The one that I find quite interesting is in the Euronews. There was an article that was posted on I think it's the 10th or 12th of May, whereby the EU had put a budget of 15 billion euros for poor countries. But the sad or interesting thing is Africa had less than 1% of the infections and less than 1% of the deaths. And the one quote from the article says that Europeans are worried about us, but we are worried about them. So I think that man, we could say we've done it African style for real. So the scientists had drawn up models and have been predicting the worst case scenario for Africa for a long time. Unfortunately, that worst case scenario has also gone into the leadership of many African countries, leading to a spate of panics and closures, and also leading to some recklessness and some openness. I cannot specify countries because I don't want to be in trouble with anyone. All I can say is that Africans are doing a different thing. There's something about Africa, the Africans themselves, that is baffling the scientists. They are throwing theory after theory, model after model, observation after observation, and still we are not moving in the direction that they are moving. It seems they are expecting, one report wrote that the virus has made a soft landing in Africa, or a soft landfall. Maybe it's true, maybe it ain't. But one thing I know for sure is that at the moment, Africa is beating all expectations. It's beating all predictions. And not that the predictions are wrong, but I think they have not included an Africanness factor in it. And it seems that it factor is helping us in the long run. Yesterday we covered the one suggested solution why we're having low infections and deaths, and they had written 5 of them, where I talked about the climate, the youthful demographics, the lower population density, less travel, and experience with epidemics in the past. I would say some hold water, some don't. All I can wish is that we can keep up this trend and foresee a future where we have beaten COVID-19 the African style. It's already estimated that even if we peak in Africa, it will not be at the rate or intensity like in Europe or the US. So Africa has an X factor that is still to be determined as to why we are not suffering or meeting the predictions made about us. Now, I wish you guys a good night. I'll keep it short this week. I hope to find a few interesting conspiracies that maybe have been put out there before we have our Zoom session on Thursday evening. Remember that. I will post a small link for that tomorrow so that you can be able to have an option to log in, chime in, and give your opinions and also just vent. It's confession is good for the soul. So our sessions, that's what they are. They are just confessions. You just talk about stuff. You just talk about what you feel. And I wish you guys a good night. Let's continue beating COVID-19 African style. Let's show the world that for once we're not the poster boys of disaster or the poster children of disaster. Is that in our view we are making it. We shall also cover the negative side of the COVID pandemic in terms of what countries have done in Africa that is a bit disappointing, and we'll cover that as well. But over and above right now, let's keep the news in a good hype, in a good feel. This week it's an African week, and you are African, and you better feel proud about yourself. Whatever little you're doing, it's working, it's keeping things at bay. Numbers are dropping. Africa is coming out of this pandemic more or less intact. Now, if we drop our guard and stop being cognizant of that fact and start living risky and doing risky behaviors, we run the risk of spoiling or damaging the success that we already have. So I urge you once again to do the foresees. Cover your face, chill at home, clean your hands, clear your distance. Just keep it, make it a lifestyle of cleanliness, because cleanliness is next to godliness. Have yourselves a good night. God bless. Take care. And may God be with you and keep you well.